Thank you for joining us. Good evening. You're watching a presentation of RK Entertainment. My name is Kurt Evans, and thank you for joining us. I also want to say thank you to all those YouTubers for the many hits that you've given RK Entertainment. You're watching RK Entertainment presents ARTSTOCK with artist PASQUAL Bettio. And now Pasquale is going to explain to us what each of these pieces mean, what they mean to him, and what he was trying to convey as he constructed this piece, this work of art. So take it away, Pasquale.
We're in a section or an area that I call the Cosmo, and this is after years of collection of Marvin Hadley, who wrote the music for Laurel and Hardy and the theme song for the city of Englewood, gave me all of this wonderful crystal glass, and it's incredible. You know, I really feel that my pieces, as I've developed them, I've had a lot of people want to buy my art, and I always kept it because being a photographer and knowing that these are going to be the backgrounds of movies and planets. So this is all my imaginary mind going into the idea of what the fantasy planets look like and are. And of course we do a lot of wearable art, and I think about the people living on a planet of happiness and peace and love and joy, and close-ups of these particular things with lasers and different light remind me of the different planets. So this is the Cosmo series of my collection, and these were done early in my career. Marvin Hadley had collected so many things. A lot of people give me things, and this came from a telescope in a German submarine. It's a crystal for that, and then of course the broken glass and the marble dust and the egg crate and all of this. So this gave me the feeling of a planet. So this is through our Cosmo series. Now I'm going to walk through here, and we're going to go into the Hollywood heads.
Now we're in what Pasquale calls the head room. There are pieces of art that signify the Hollywood and all the famous people, as in Audrey Hepburn. So Pasquale will explain each piece to us in the Hollywood head room. Take it away, Pasquale. Okay.
And I'm calling this room after the wonderful star Audrey Hepburn behind me, and that's an artographic painting that I've done, and just recently have taken it to another step. Over the years, my art, I'll start a piece in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s and the 90s, and then it's never finished because I continue adding things to it. So I was got inspired by black and white this year, and we ended up doing that portrait that you see above me. You're looking at, now you're seeing the, I would say the grand ladies of the collection of Hollywood heads. They all have stories. They all are put together with pieces from things in Hollywood, a lot of the jewelry from some of the big stars, my friends. Being a photographer, I shot a lot of them in the early days, working with the industry. And it's funny, the piece that you're looking at right now is Lady Barbara Helen, which is my mother, and the top of it was a hat that we did a big wearable art show, and we opened at the Roxy, and then I ended up taking it out of the wearable art and making this wonderful sculpture in representation of my late mother. So, and the next one is dedicated to my dear Japanese friend, who is an agent from Tokyo and a jewelry designer, and some of her early jewelry, like on the crown, were necklaces and things that she did. Now she's doing unbelievable Tiffany kinds of things and selling for hundreds and thousands of dollars. The one above it is Willie Farrell Beer, and this is the Capricorn lady, and she of course has some incredible, I use a lot of mirrors and glass, shells and feathers, They all come together. I mean, this is very refined assemblage art. You know, assemblage art comes in many, many different kinds of things. And so one of the things that I have really kind of dissected things and inspired by the pieces and the colors and all of that. You can pan over here and you'll see the whole group of this is the first one here, was his Josephine. That was my first head that I did in the early days. That's the Jester. That was done in the early days too. If you pan over, that's Josephine. And it's pretty amazing. This was all the things that were collected by Josephine and Marvin Hadley's wife from the early silent days of the Hollywood movies. He was a conductor. And if you go in there and you're going to see something, I got a gift from someone, and in that piece, and you'll see it's a water, hot and cold water, and I understand that came from the Queen Mary. So someday we're going to return that to the Queen Mary. It came from one of the estates, staterooms, and one of my partners is now interested in being part of that. So, you know, there are a lot of things on these items. If you just go through, it fascinates people. And in that piece, I'm using nails and screws and jewelry and old buttons. And there's something in there from the as you're going up, you'll see the first aid. This is the Red Cross, little Red Cross pin in there. And as you move in, you'll see all of those. And it's amazing how many things we can discover. And that particular piece is dedicated to Grace Robbins, the wife of Harold Robbins. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you something, because Grace is a very wonderful lady, and she did a lot of things with Europe and orphans and all kinds of wonderful things. And she had such a zest and vigor for being the wife of one of the greatest novelists in our time, Harold Robbins. And I felt that she was the queenly type person, but the real Grace was amazingly different. You know, she was happy and inspired people, and she hasn't come to see the museum yet, but I'm really looking forward to her coming and seeing what we did, because the museum was inspired for her. And from the very, very beginning, she was one of my early collectors in assemblage art, and inspired me when other people didn't understand it. It's amazing. This is, I did a series. You know, it's amazing when I'm creating these things, and it's so hard to let them grow, but I did 12 pieces, and I said, I'm going to sell these pieces. And you know, every time I say I'm going to sell something, I get the offers and I say, oh, well, you just can't move them or change from this collection. We're having a wonderful opening today here at Hollywood and Highland, and this opening, I'm calling it ARTSTOCK. So I brought other artists in to be inspired and to help share their things. But this particular piece, it was a little piece that I gave my mother when I was a kid, actually, and it's all about New York and Statue of Liberty and all that stuff. And the name of this piece is The Lady of the Golden Age. And the things that come out of your mouth, slings and arrows of life, you have to be so careful on what you say, what influences your friends and other people. These come from the chandelier of Ernest Borgnine, and the crystals and all of that. She's a very spiritual piece.
You've been watching a presentation of RK Entertainment at ARTSTOCK with artist PASQUAL BETTIO. I want to thank Pasquale for showing us all of his beautiful art, and I hope you all have been inspired and moved by the great artistry of the great PASQUAL BETTIO. Good night from RK Entertainment. See you again.